Hi everyone, this is Dévashi from Tigress Yoga, and I have here with me today Avalon from Blossoming Woman. And I really want to welcome all the women in the Tigress community and also in the Blossoming Woman community and anyone else who happens to be watching this now. This video is dedicated to speaking to Avalon about her amazing experience of orgasmic birth and also her recent experience of having shared this publicly in the media and what came of that and what she got put through, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really wanted to give you the chance, Avalon, to, outside of your own offerings, outside of your own space, to have a talk about what's going on here and to just really bring more light to this situation and get women to start talking about it and hopefully not be so afraid of it. Hey? And today we're going to go right into the experience of orgasmic birth and what has come of this from your direct embodiment of this, Avalon. So everyone, I want you to know that Avalon is a shamanic birth keeper, and she is also a mother of 5, and she loves to support women to have empowered births. And she's a very creative entrepreneur who does many things. And she also empowers mothers through their pregnancy, in their birth, and their sexuality as well. I've got a bunch of questions for you. And let's start with something really basic. What is your definition, or how would you just explain orgasmic birth?
Okay, well, orgasmic birth, it's kind of an expansive thing, a bit like orgasm. There's lots of different variations, but ultimately orgasmic birth is really an experience where you feel more expanded as a woman from it rather than contracted. Like you come through the experience, and it's beautiful, it's pleasurable, it's sensual, it's intimate. That's in a nutshell what I would explain orgasmic birth as.
Beautiful. And can you tell us a bit about your experience that you had? Birth stories are incredibly rich and amazing, but if we were to kind of succinctly talk about that, what would you say?
I can share essentially in my birth, I went into labour in the evening. I was lying in bed with my partner, and it was a full moon, and I'd predicted months earlier that we would be giving birth under this full moon. So it was kind of exciting.
And you were at home, obviously.
I was at home, yes. Yeah. And we had chosen to free birth. So we didn't have any, we specifically wanted to have an intimate sensual space together without any interruptions. We had children and they were all asleep. And so my partner, Brett, was gently caressing my body, and I wasn't in labour or anything at this point. And I was feeling rushes of sensation through my body, just dropping into that very intimate space with him. And then the sensations of pleasure started to deepen right down lower. And I because I know my body, I know it was like in my cervix area, it was like this really deep rush that happened. And I felt it and Brett felt it, and we're like, wow, feels like something's happening. And so that was the first exciting little moment of knowing that something was happening. And so we stayed in that space for a while, and then we moved out into the lounge room because we needed to set up the birth pool and set up the fire. And through all of that, we stayed very connected and very loving, and we were kissing and cuddling, and what was happening for me is that each rush that was going through my body felt like a really intense and yet pleasurable rush of expansive energy rushing through me, and I was moving and swaying with it. And as this intensified, I was in a completely altered state of consciousness. It was like I was in the most euphoric space that I've ever been in. And
wow,
I've done a lot of different kind of shamanic journeying and things, over my life, and this was beyond any of that. And being connected in that space with my partner was so deeply intimate. Like when I was having the rush going through my body, and I was making lots of, I was either roaring or moving or both, whatever. It's just whatever. Total primal space, no brain, just no thoughts. other than wow, you know. And
so you just allowed your body to do whatever she was feeling to do,
totally,
however. Yeah.
yeah. And it was like everything had fuzzy edges. Like, it was so euphoric. It was it's sort of hard to put into words, but it was just the most exquisite experience. And I could feel, as my baby started to drop lower, come through my cervix, I could feel everything as an amazing sensation. And I'm like, oh, the baby's coming through. And I could feel the opening. I could feel my hips expanding, and it felt really good. And then I needed to get in the water, and the hose was trickling really slowly. It was like not much water in there, but just enough to like barely squat in. And I could feel the baby's head starting to come down. I put my hand between my legs, and I could feel the top of his head.
Wow.
Like, wow, the baby's coming out. It was just this, everything was exciting and amazing and beautiful. And then I was connecting with the baby. I was talking to the baby going, we're doing it, you know, let's, I don't remember what I was saying, but it was a teamwork. And then, and as his head started to come out of me, I was like, had this mantra, which just was spontaneous. And I was just going, stretch, 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 stretch. And my body was just stretching, and it all felt so divine and amazing. And my heart was just pouring with love, and my partner was there right in the space. And, you know, when he eventually came out, it just felt really delicious. It was like, wow, it's this big sort of release. And it was like I could feel every contour of the baby coming through me. And it was just such
incredible.
You know, it was just exquisite, and we were on cloud nine. Like, it was just the most peak experience of my entire life, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so extraordinary and so magical and so incredibly natural, all at the same time.
So beautiful, you know. And through that experience, I just knew that that's what birth is. That's what our bodies are made for. When our bodies are in a natural state of openness, and when we allow the body to do what it does, like, I didn't make that happen. It was just doing it.
Yes.
There were things that I had done beforehand to prepare for that.
Yeah.
You know, like, so when the body is prepared and relaxed and able to soften and surrender and enjoy that, the body just does it.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave me real insight into that I see that as the blueprint of birth.
Wow.
Our human capacity, because birth is the ultimate sexual opening.
Yes. And so you could really track that process. Yeah, and it's what you can guide other women through now as well.
Yeah, exactly, especially because I'm really immersed in it, and I study it, and it's been a fascination and a passion of mine for a long time. So to really go through that and go, wow, you know, this is real. This is what our bodies do. This is what we're capable of. And that experience was like a complete nervous system upgrade. It was, I'm not the same as I was before that, you know. And
I really want to ask you, and Brett as well. I wanted to ask you about this. So the Avalon before this orgasmic birth and after, what did you notice?
Well, before, I mean, I've been on this journey of growth for quite a while. The main thing afterwards, the difference is that I just was elevated into such a space of trust and flow and just pure presence in my life. You know, it was like I suddenly stepped into my potential in a way that I had glimpses of before, but, you know, I'd be kind of fluctuating, but it was just like, whoo, here I am.
Wow.
So it was a whole growth spurt.
Amazing. So like a trust with you, your body, and with life.
Yeah, and a deep bonding with my partner, because he was right in it with me.
Yes.
And it's interesting because the first 2 births. We've got 5 children in our family, and it's a blended family. So I've actually birthed 3 of them. 2 of them are from my partner's past relationship. So this was the first birth that I had actually connected with the partner, because the other 2 were a different partner and different experience altogether. And I sort of thought, oh, men don't matter in birth, like but having this experience gave me such an insight into the power of the holy trinity of the man, the woman, and the baby sharing that experience. It is so divine. Like, together, that kind of level of love and connection and euphoria is like bonding for a lifetime.
Incredible.
Profound. Yeah.
And because I've had the pleasure of meeting Brett as well, he's also someone who has explored himself a lot and, done a lot of opening before that point too, right?
Yes, that's right. And during the pregnancy, we did a lot of experimenting because we couldn't find much information out there about, because Brett does tantric bodywork, and that's something that we were exploring together and looking at releasing sexual tension and stuff like that. We couldn't find much information around pregnancy and birth in that area. So we were exploring my own body and releasing tension from my body and trusting my own intuition about what felt good and what felt safe. And so that it was a shared journey to really explore the body and expand past our edges of pleasure to be able to experience more pleasure. So the whole pregnancy was that journey, So birth was really the icing on the cake of this whole journey to connect more with my own sexuality and heal any of the wounds and emotional blocks and stuck energy that I had been carrying in my body, which basically everyone carries, especially women in our culture.
Yes. And so Brett was being really present to that and present with you while that was opening and releasing.
Yeah, that's right. So, the whole pregnancy and birth was a very sexual, pleasurable bonding experience for us. And something that I support women with to, prepare for this kind of experience.
Yeah. And I hope lots of guys are watching this video as well. And if you could just speak on behalf of Brett for a moment, you said he experienced a big expansion too.
Yeah, it was huge.
What do you notice about him now?
Well, when in understanding the dynamics of the masculine feminine flow and everything, like the more deeply that I surrendered into my feminine, the more he could experience more of himself. He could feel more presence and more connection. And it's like the 2 feed off each other or kind of feed, it's like this total dance. So for him to experience me, or, for a man to experience a woman in that state of divinity is life-changing. It's like his whole perception of woman has just been amplified into, wow, like this is woman and this is what a woman's body can do.
Her wholeness, her holiness.
Yeah, the total honouring of the sacred feminine. To have that experience is so profound and sacred and holy.
Wow, absolutely. Wow. And so this was your last birth of your last child that we're talking about, and you've obviously given birth a couple of times before that.
Yeah.
So in your last child, Zenon, how have you noticed him being different? How does orgasmic birth affect the baby? How is it of benefit to them?
Well, for a baby, it's like that he can just retain his full essence. He is a total powerhouse. Like he's so clear. He's super switched on. He's super perceptive. He's just the epitome of human in full potential form in a little, at the moment he's 4 in a 4-year-old body. And to him, the sounds of pleasure are a natural, normal experience of life. The whole pregnancy, he was marinating in orgasmic, beautiful, pleasurable energy, and probably his sounds of reassurance are me kind of moaning and feeling really good. And we're a close family. We share, Zenon shares our bed, and Brett and I hug a lot, and we're affectionate with each other a lot. And when we hug, Zenon comes and runs in between us. He wants to get in it. He loves it. So he's just super alive.
Wow. So it sounds like pleasure feels like home to him.
Yeah, that's it. And he has no hesitation, no doubt that his needs are going to be met. He is like totally grounded, he's a master manifester already.
Is he?
Totally. He just goes, he'll think, I want this thing, and somehow it'll turn up. Like, it's amazing.
Wow. How could anyone not want that for their child? Seriously.
Totally. And it's just, as a mother, it's such a pleasure to feel that level of connection. It's really beautiful, and it's challenging as well, because our children have such dynamic energy, especially when they're fully embodied. But to me, that challenge is really quite fun, because it's meeting a fully embodied human where they're at, and seeing where I can grow to meet that.
Yes. And so you got to have a birth experience of your own, not just the birth of Zenon. It was also yourself. So, this expanded version of you is meeting him.
That's right. And the expanded version of Brett
is
meeting him. So it's like we've all just expanded into this new way of being together, it's just so beautiful. And I can see how amazing it would be for more people to have this experience.
Absolutely. So anyone watching this who doesn't realize, just recently, at the time of making this video, Avalon, I don't know if you were approached to put your story into articles.
Yeah. Well, a woman from the Women's Weekly found
my birth. Cool. Australian Women's Weekly.
I know, it's sort of unlikely
article. And then the Huffington Post, and then some other ones.
Yeah, and then it just all of a sudden it was just everywhere. I don't know how that happened. I think maybe one of the interviewers maybe writes for a few different places. So it was just everywhere. Within a couple of days, I was just seeing all these notifications and things, and it was kind of just went viral within a couple of days.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So here we go. Do you want to tell us what happened when it went viral? What were the kind of comments you saw?
Yeah, it was really interesting that it was like these two extremes of this spectrum. On the one side, there were people going, oh, wow, that's amazing. Like, I want that. And how beautiful. And it also brought up some pain for women who haven't experienced that. And to see that, there's a need, that there is such a need for healing in the area of birth in our culture. The other extreme... And sex, yeah, exactly. Birth and sex is kind of it's all in the same kind of field. And on the other extreme, people were disgusted. They were shocked. They didn't believe me. They were just like, that's not possible. And they were calling me names. It was like slander out there. And it was a shock to me, because most of the people that I relate with in my social circles and the people I work with, they're very accepting and celebrating this experience that I've had. And so it gave me insight into the broader culture and how people just don't understand. There's so much ignorance and misunderstanding about sexuality and our bodies and birth. Like, it's all distorted. There's the whole suppression, the religious background of making it all sinful and all that side, and a lot of shame and disgust. And then there's there was also comments that were more kind of pornographic about it, like about just kind of saying it was all sick and orgasming on my baby's head, and like totally putting it out of context, like just cheapening the whole thing to be something really that it wasn't at all.
Yes.
So for me, that it was a shock to be on the receiving end of that. And at first I was like, I'm not going to let it in. It's just their opinion. But then it did get to me. I felt,
because it was your experience. They were all dissecting, you know.
Yeah, and not only it was my most intimate experience of my life that I was sharing openly.
Yeah,
opening the doorway to something so intimate and profound and sacred, and to have that just slandered, you know. And at first I felt angry. I was like, I don't know if I can swear, but, you know, F you kind of thing. Because that can be my initial kind of, you know, reaction. And then I just felt devastated. I felt really sad, especially when people started saying, that's bullshit, she's making that up. No, that's not possible. And then there was this whole bunch of people jumping on that bandwagon going, this is not true, this is not possible. And that really upset me, because it was like, truth and integrity is a really core value of mine. And to have all these people accusing me of lying about something that was so special to me really hurt me. And I'm so glad that I have this beautiful partner, Brett, because I just broke down about it. I kind of had a big cry, and I was like, oh, and I allowed that to happen because I am, you know, I'm a sensitive woman, and I'm not a rock. And so that I allowed myself to feel that, but mostly I felt a huge sadness about the state of our culture.
Yeah, and how incredibly immature it is. Yeah,
it is. Immature and disconnected, and just it was huge. Like, it's devastating to think that the majority of people have no idea of what's capable, of what their bodies can do, of the level of pleasure and joy that they can experience. And it actually fueled my determination. It was like, okay, this is really important. This information can transform our culture.
Absolutely.
The way we arrive, our first moments on earth are really significant and profound in the way we perceive life.
Yes.
You know, those initial imprints are like, well, is the world a safe, beautiful, loving place where, you know, where my needs are met and I can be happy? Or is the world scary and, excuse me, you know, my needs aren't met, I'm not safe, I'm not loved, I'm not lovable. There's all this mixture of stuff. And that's core, you know, that's core brain foundations are being created. So, you know, humans have an amazing capacity to heal from any kind of trauma, but how much easier is it to actually just not need to just have that full radiance, have that full nervous system activation, full potential alive from the very beginning, and having that trust in life.
Yes,
right?
yes. So it's like a really holographic experience, you know. You open this gateway and shared this profound, extraordinary experience, and people met it quite possibly where their own birth trauma sits.
Yeah, possibly that. It's just so foreign, you know, it's just so foreign to people because our culture of birth is saturated with pain, agony, screaming, hospitals, medical emergency, you name it. Like for like thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
Yes.
Birth has been derailed, and it is actually the key to our power, you know, and so it's no mistake that we have been kept so ignorant. You know, I don't want to go too much into that side, but it's like the feminine and the way we treat the earth, it's all linked.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You know?
Yeah. And so it's a modern witch hunt that I saw playing out with me. And it's still out there. I'm not looking anymore. It's like, I'm not looking at the comments. I don't need to see that. What I need to focus on is sharing this message.
Yeah.
Inspiring the people who are open to it and being present to the women who are ready to heal from, you know, births that didn't go like that, and so that they can then either just heal themselves and reclaim their sexuality as a woman and know that they're a beautiful, divine woman, even if birth didn't go that way. because that's a huge area. And then to inspire the women who are still to give birth to actually reach for the stars. You know,
that's really beautiful.
Yeah, transform your whole possibility about what's possible in birth. And one of the things I teach is the field of birth, the energetic field of birth that is being created from the very first moment you think of your baby, or the first moment you find out you're pregnant, or the very beginning. All the thoughts and feelings and messages and everything is contributing to this energetic field of your birth. So you have a lot of power in what you let in there, and need to have really strong boundaries, be really discerning.
Yes.
About, you know, where you get information from, what do you take in? Because not only that, in pregnancy we're very energetically open, very sensitive and vulnerable. And in birth, you can feel things that are other people's stuff. I mean, that's the beauty in birth. A woman is wired to be super hyper vigilant.
Yes.
Any danger.
So your senses are really heightened. You can feel more than you normally would. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to consider, where are you birthing and who's going to be in that space?
Yeah.
That's all influencing your experience. And that was actually why we decided we didn't want anyone tainting our experience. And that's, you know, everyone needs to make a choice that feels comfortable for them in where they birth and who they have with them.
Yeah.
You know, with this, when you're creating your field of birth, you need to have really strong boundaries about what you let in to that energetic field, and also allow fears to be seen. I think another thing is people are afraid to feel uncomfortable feelings. You know, so if they have a fear, they're like, oh, just push that away, pretend that didn't happen. But what I like to do is bring it up and shine the light on it. See, let's have a look at this fear.
Yes.
If you don't look at this now, it's going to come up in birth anyway, either consciously or as an energetic block, or as more pain, as your body's trying to open against resistance. So there is a lot that you can do.
And this is really up to a woman, isn't it? It's up to individual women to decide to meet their capacity for feeling, meet their capacity for sensuality and sexuality and everything that's involved in birth. And, you know, a lot of people, as you and I both know, think that a home birth is a weird thing to do, let alone an orgasmic home birth.
Yeah.
And so the medicalization of birth, that's just taken it out of that actually safe, warm, loving, comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you see birth as a sexual experience, and women's sexuality is quite multi-layered and quite sensitive. You know, like it doesn't take much to shut that down. You know, if something happens, if you get interrupted, or if a thought comes in, it can shift the whole energy of the experience. So you need to give birth in a place where you feel comfortable, where you feel safe. Even if you feel observed, that's enough to, like, self-consciousness is enough to, you know, stop the hormones. Can I share with you just a few of the key hormones that are flowing in birth, to give more understanding that this is the body's natural blueprint to birth in ecstasy, right? So one of the main hormones is oxytocin, and that's the hormone of love and bonding. And that's, you know, we get flooded with that when we're feeling warm fuzzies and when we're in orgasm and love making. And it's a very loving, fluffy kind of warm feeling. So that's one of the main hormones that floods our body. Endorphins, feelings of pleasure and transcendence, they are heightened during birth. Epinephrine and norepinephrine. So these are the excitement, you know, like the thing is that sort of happens at the end as your body goes into, like, the baby coming out, and there's that little bit of extra energy that, like, comes out, right? And the problem is, if those levels stay high, like if there's interruption or if there's any stress or any conversation even, then that's when a woman bleeds after birth. Because got a lot of adrenaline, then the oxytocin, because adrenaline and oxytocin kind of counteract each other. So the adrenaline is needed to get the baby out, but as soon as that baby's out, that's a very sacred moment to bring the baby straight onto mum's heart. That does two things. Firstly, it tells the baby that birth is complete, baby's home. It comes to the heart, feels that heart resonance, and the baby stops producing adrenaline, so the baby can relax. The other thing it does is it tells the mum's body that labour's over. It's not over, but it tells mum's body the baby's out and gets flooded with oxytocin. This helps the placenta birth easily. And obviously, it's bonding. It's sacred. It's precious time. Those few moments, or extending into minutes, as long as you can, if you can really honour that as one of the most sacred moments on earth, no conversation, no questions. Oh, is it this or that, blah, blah, blah. Like, that just interrupts this incredible, profound bonding period.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing is, like, when in my first birth, I birthed in hospital. I didn't really know that much. I birthed in hospital, was interrupted a few times. I did birth naturally without drugs, but ended up bleeding a lot after my birth. And I was so confused. Like, why did my body do that? It didn't make sense. So I wanted to learn more. And I learned, this is what led me on this exploration about the hormone. After my second birth, I barely bled at all either. And after Zenon's birth, I barely had 1 or 2 drops of blood after. Like, it was like my body was so flooded with oxytocin that he came out, the placenta came out, it was clean. Like, nothing happened. And that's like, wow, this is birth.
It's what's possible. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And obviously, you know, the modern medicine and medical capabilities are really incredible, really incredible.
Yeah, for sure. That's right. When
it's important to say this on a public video, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But making birth normal to have in hospital, this is something that needs to be questioned, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, the medical support is really great if there's a problem.
Yes.
The problem is, by going into that environment, that can actually cause the problems.
Yes.
Because the woman, even unconsciously, you walk into a hospital, it's not like you suddenly feel really relaxed and homely. There's a level, like, there's a smell of antiseptic. There's a few subtle messages that when your body is so energetically open, that's enough to put you on a little bit of high alert, you know, even just subtly. So you can have a beautiful birth in hospital. It does require more attention to creating a birth space that you feel really safe in, and having, you know, preferably a doula or someone with you who can help hold that space for you, so that you're not getting interrupted by unnecessary questions. Because the more, if you think about making love, it's such a good analogy. It's like, the more you can just surrender into the process, you don't need to think too much. As soon as a woman gets put up into her, you know, her thinking part of her brain, yes, that's the opposite to where she needs to be.
Yes.
And that's actually, there's another hormone, prolactin, which is involved in the whole birthing process, which is about softening and nurturing and the whole bonding. So if you look at the chemical cocktail that our bodies flood with, it's all laid out.
There's even natural anesthetic in there.
Exactly. And as the body's in, it's an intense experience. You know, birth is an intense experience. And I had a moment of seeing what it feels like for other women to feel the pain of birth, right? In my second birth, it was cruising along. I was like surrendering, making sound. And then my sister was taking photos, and I wanted to have a set, like, standing up for a photo, and I could feel a rush, you know, contraction coming on. And I wanted to just stay in the position that I was in for the photo. And so I resisted the energy that was wanting to pour through me. And I was like, no, I'm not going to feel it. And that experience of resistance just created so much agony in my body. It was like, oh, it was horrible. And my body tensed up. And I had this epiphany in that moment of, this is what birth feels like for a lot of people. Most people, nearly everybody.
Imagine women that haven't understood how to create those boundaries that they need to take care of that sanctuary space for themselves, for the birthing field to really be on and alive fully, imagine how much they're cringing and how much pain they're experiencing.
That's right.
So a lot of those comments written about your story were like, you know, kind of vilifying you, and like, you don't know what birth is because birth is pain.
Yes.
So
that's right.
Clearly, women, you know, you're not getting, you don't know what's possible. Like, the medical system is not actually equipped and trained and educated to tell you what you're actually really capable of. And so Avalon has this beautiful online course that she has created, Birth Blueprint, which can actually show you how this is naturally possible. It's not something weird. It's not something bizarre. It's actually what we're wired for physiologically.
Yeah, and the course is really holistic, and it's quite a journey guiding you through the layers, like all through pregnancy and how to prepare your body for birth. And because there's a lot of mind stuff, like we really need to, it's about awakening your feminine power and getting really clear, having a really strong voice, having really strong boundaries, clear communication so that you can protect yourself and nurture yourself, and then ways to actually nurture yourself physically, and looking at any fears and emotions that are rising.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of journaling through the course. So you're actually going on quite a deep experience into your own self as a woman, because all those layers, they all matter. All the parts of you are part of the birth, you know. And then, learning specific practices and things to prepare the body to help to soften and relax the body, and then also tools to use in birth itself.
Yes.
There are some really simple, all natural, you know, it's different movements and different things to be aware of. Like, just for example, the jaw and the pelvis, you probably know this, Dévashi.
All the Tigress women listening will be like,
So, you know, if your jaw is tensed up in birth, that's got to make it really hard for your baby to come out. So even just loosening your jaw and practicing that through pregnancy, you know, nice loose jaw. And there's a few other really little simple things like that that can make a profound difference to your body's ability to soften and open.
Yeah, and there is significant preparation usually that's required to be able to have this experience successfully. And Tigress Yoga offers that as well as practice. And it's really beautiful that women, even actually a woman in Germany recently, and also women in Australia where the live classes are taught, are tapping into this experience of incredible empowered home birth.
Yeah, because it's all really about embodiment and trusting your body, allowing sensations to flow through, because it's all just sensations, really. It's like, do you allow it to flow, or is there some resistance? Because when there's resistance to that energy flowing, it's almost like it's like the most powerful lightning bolt of energy that you're going to have going through your body ever. So if you can prepare yourself so that can pour through you, you're going to love it. But if it doesn't, then it will be agony. And that's just bottom line.
Yes.
So the more you can release your body, release any tension, release fears. There are lots of things that you can do to prepare to have your, you know, most highest potential birth experience.
And for women who kind of know that they haven't given themselves that kind of preparation, you know, perhaps a different choice of how they're going to give birth is appropriate. But what we're saying is that this is completely naturally possible.
Yes.
It's what we're biologically wired for. And, you know, to take the reaction to your story on its head, you know, it's actually ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous that this paradigm of the natural, empowered, ecstatic, orgasmic home birth is perceived as odd, because actually anything other than that is really the strange thing.
It is really when you take a bird's eye view of our culture and humanity, and you think, well, humans are natural beings. you know, and this all relates to the way we treat our bodies, the way we treat the earth. Like it's like we're going through this huge shift at the moment to really get back to nature, get back to basics, and embracing the technology in a way that when that's supportive, but like birth it's a primal process. It's just, I mean, there's so many different ways to birth, and every birth is going to have challenges and gifts. You know, whether the challenges come up beforehand so you can move through them so that you can enter your birth in a way that those things have been cleared, and then you're a clear vessel for the energy to flow through. Like I studied with Jane Hardwick Collins from the School of Shamanic Midwifery, and she's amazing, such a wise woman.
Yes.
And she says, you know, each birth, every woman has the birth that she needs to have to teach her what she needs to know on her next step to wholeness. So that's, you know, even in any kind of birth, there's gifts and there's messages. If you allow the space to really sit with that and see what you've learned, and it can be an indication of where you are in your connection with your own sexuality and your own feminine power and your own voice. And those things are, you know, it's really helpful to see where you've got room to grow, you know, and trust that the baby comes in with their journey too. So you can do a lot of healing no matter what happens.
Absolutely. And, you know, after your article was in the Huffington Post, I've noticed that since then, and all the reaction that happened around your article, since then there's been more articles around birth trauma and the fact that it's being spoken about more now, because that's kind of in the way of, you know, on a mass scale, a lot of women realizing that they can have what you had. You know, and that they can have that. It's what's in the way is the fear and the pain from maybe the experiences that they've already had. And because it's not normalized as part of the process of birth, of how do you process those feelings? How do you process those energies left over from birth in your body that creates so much emotion and that gets stored and locked up as tension in the mind and the body? And then so a woman looking at your story with that inside of her would just be like, what the hell is she talking about?
Yeah,
you know?
And I do support women with that. I do, you know, to hold space to really allow the woman to feel and release unresolved emotions, because it's so deep. It's a powerful rite of passage. You know, even if we don't know that it's meant to be, on a deep primal level, our body knows. Our body's preparing for this profound bonding experience, and when that doesn't happen, there's a core wound on such a deep level. You know, it's a huge loss. Grieve. And because our culture is set up that women are quite isolated, you know, they've got the baby, depending on how birth went, they're in recovery, they might be recovering from surgery, suddenly they're at home, they've got this baby 24/7 that's probably quite unsettled because of all the things that have happened, and there's no time to process emotions in that, and it's too hard, and so that because it's so big, then there can be a shutdown. It's like the postnatal depression is huge, and that is like the unresolved feelings that haven't been able to flow are kind of sort of sitting there, and it's a real thing that happens. And women need more support, and really need support to be able to feel and allow themselves to grieve. It can be confusing because there's the celebration of a new baby. It's like, oh, your baby's here, and aren't you lucky? Your baby's healthy and alive, and wow. And it's too awkward to go into the other conversation of, well, how are you?
Yes.
She is devastated on a deep level. It's hard to even voice that.
Yeah, I'll bet.
The baby needs breastfeeding, and you know, like, there's too much all going on.
And then in a culture of, you know, just keep going, just soldier on.
Yeah. And then obviously there's something wrong with the woman. That's the belief. There's something wrong with my body. There's something, you know, there's so many beliefs that can happen. There's actually, it's like, to me, the women, there's nothing wrong with women's bodies. what's the problem is the context that we're in.
Yeah, and the lack of education. And so thank you for bringing it. Thank you for being it and being a way shower.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I'll bet.
It's my joy, really. I enjoy it. And, you know, what I love is hearing the stories of women when they have, you know, they've gone through the birth blueprint, they've prepared themselves, they've had an amazing birth, you know, after perhaps quite, you know, they might have had a traumatic birth before, and that is just, it's all so worth it. Like, it's so heartwarming to hear the stories, to go, wow, like this is happening more and more people are waking up to this possibility, more and more babies are being born in this exquisite love, you know, it's just no words, you know, it's just amazing. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of extraordinary as a responsibility on us as women, isn't it? It's like, it's so big, and at the same time, it's like step into the wow of these incredibly expanded, pleasure-filled beings that we're capable of being.
That's it. And you know, the beautiful thing is that, you know, I fully embody this frequency of ecstatic birth, you know, and just being in the presence of that activates that for others. Activates that possibility. So it's not actually that hard. The more people that sort of shift into this frequency, this vibration, it can get like popcorn, you know, just start popping and growing and expanding. And that's the exciting thing.
It's world transforming, isn't it? It's totally. And so you've got something free that women can access after this video as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do. On my website, I've got a free gift, Secrets for a Beautiful Birth. And that's a really great, like, it's like a little intro sheet of looking at what things are really important to consider as you're looking at birthing. And, you know, you can explore those in more detail, but that's at my website, blossomingwoman.com.au/gift. And that way you can stay connected in my world too. And I do one-on-one sessions as well with women. So in addition to the course that you can do at your own pace from home, I also offer private sessions and personal support.
Yes, amazing. So if you're a woman who's going to be giving birth, or you're preparing to get pregnant, consider learning with this woman who's just, as you can see, so generous with her embodied knowledge. And thank you for being a way shower, and thank you for your grace and your wisdom to just let this, you know, horrible wave of comments that came your way, and just, you know, I get that you can see it for the pain that it is, and it's not about your beautiful experience.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. And I really appreciate, you know, connecting with you today and having this conversation and being able to share this message that birth can be really beautiful.
Yeah, amazing. So be inspired, sisters. Thank you for listening. And any men listening to this too, I hope that you have, because your place in this is profound as well.
Yeah, and actually Brett supports men too. He does things for men to help them really step up, because it's, for a man, it's really stepping into their full embodied masculine qualities, you know, to be really present.
We need more of that on this planet.
Because a woman in birth is like a hurricane, you know, it's like the most powerful storm that you need to weather. So for a man to be really there and present and grounded and fully trusting and honoring of the goddess, that's the job for men, and my man supports men with that.
Incredible. And you even have a family program as well, right?
Yeah, we have a course for parents called Making Love Matter. So that's around sexuality and relating and connection after babies have arrived, because it changes. You know, when children arrive, and I work with women around the way sexuality changes for a woman after birth. The hormones change. I'm writing a book on that, around the sensuality and how it's actually a doorway to a deeper level of pleasure that can happen, which is the opposite to what we are fed culturally. You know, that once you become a mother, then it's like sort of shut down, and a lot of people experience because a woman's more sensitive. She, the sexual response is more reliant on a partner being in their integrity. You know, like there's so much more heart
Mm.
So there's different conditions that really support that opening.
Mm.
And yeah, so our website for that is called lovingfamilies.com.
Mm. So yeah, pregnancy, birth's more about a deepening into sensuality and sexuality, not a disconnection from.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Thank you so much for your time today, beautiful Avalon.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for listening.